Hello and welcome to the Ridiculously Good VA Show with Tracy Daviero. If you are a virtual assistant or want to be one, this is the place to learn the tips and tricks you need to become a ridiculously good VA. I've been a part of the VA industry since 1998, and I'm excited to get to know you and help you build an amazing business. Let's go. Hello, it's Tracy Daviero with you for another episode of the podcast that teaches you how to be a ridiculously good virtual assistant. When you are ridiculously good, your business will work for you. A lot of VAs go into business so that they can be more present for their family. It's a reason, a why, if you will, that I hear all the time. But what then they do is they fail to establish the right boundaries and routines to balance their work life and their home life. In this episode, we'll talk about what you need to do to be a great businesswoman and a great family member. Today's quote is, "There's no such thing as work-life balance. There are work-life choices, and you make them, and they have consequences." And this was said by Jack Welch, businessman and CEO of GE. This is probably not the quote you expected to hear when I'm going to tell you how to balance your work and life, but I really do think it states perfectly what I believe to be important, that the choices we make with our time, with our money, with our attention, all have consequences. If you spend too much time working, your family may suffer or your health may suffer. If you spend too much time with family or on personal stuff, your business could suffer. We start our business so that it can support the lifestyle that we want. I tell you this all the time. So make sure the choices you are making are the right ones. Let's go. Balancing work and home life. Many of us VAs are moms. We want to be there for our family, but still earn what we need to earn. Like Jack Welch says, work efficiently and smartly to support the lifestyle that you want. Working from home gives us so much. Helps us lose the commute, helps us save money on lunches out, helps us reduce the need for daycare or childcare, helps us get kids to and from school without after school care, allows us to go on field trips, makes keeping kids home with illnesses easier than it is working outside the home, and helps us schedule appointments more easily into our schedule. All of that sounds great. And there are many, many reasons that we want to be able to work from home so that we can be more present for our families. But you can't spend all your time being a mom and a housewife because you have to earn enough money, meaning work enough, to allow you to do all of those things. If we let the family stuff always come first, our business will start to suffer. Being there for family means something different for each of us. My son is grown now, and he's 24, actually. But for me, it still means being able to sit down together for dinner, have company over on our schedule, not working evenings and weekends and holidays. That's a really big one for me. And being able to go to appointments during the day. I like all of those reasons for being able to balance what I'm doing in my business and still have the flexibility to do the things that I want and need on my own time, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. There are 5 things that you need to do to manage better to make sure you're preserving your work-life balance. Those 5 things are family, you, boundaries, distractions, and services. And again, I have a lot of tips for you. So I hope you have a pen and paper and are taking notes, or just really noting those things that you are recognizing and jiving with and being able to note those. Maybe you take your notes in your phone if you're listening to this podcast when you're out walking or doing some exercise. So wherever it makes sense for you, I want you to pick at least 2 or 3 things that you maybe are not doing quite correctly that you can change, make minor changes to, and be able to start balancing your work and life a whole lot better starting today. First thing is family. Now, the first thing to think about is how to provide services that allow you to work flexible hours. One of the things that we like to do when we first get started is work in our brilliance. Of course, that's the most important thing. I tell you all the time, start with what you know. But a lot of times that's what we know, and how to start our business is admin, and is something that, makes us be sort of not accountable to our clients during the day, but available and responsive and all those kinds of things. And it is exciting when we start our business and we get going that we are available to do those things. But as we get a little more settled into things, we want to make sure that we're offering services that allow us the flexibility in our schedule. If we do want to take an afternoon off, if we do want to go and get groceries in the middle of the day, or whatever that is. We want to make sure that we are not, all of a sudden going missing for our clients when we've been available before. So think about services that you can offer that allow you to have a more flexible schedule. That is one way that you can really help to support being there for your family, which is one really big reason that a lot of VAs open their business. You want to set business hours and hold to them. Whatever those are, you want to consistently say, like I've always said, I work 9 to 5. I did a lot of working nights, weekends, holidays, all those kinds of things. And you want to and yours don't have to be 9 to 5. But you want to make sure maybe your work hours are 10 to 3 or 10 to 2, whatever they are. And you want to make sure that your family knows when you're working and knows when it's their time with you. One of the biggest issues that I've found in terms of not balancing that family piece is, that your family just never knowing kind of what you're doing. And so you spend more time with them, and then you're trying to pick up your work or make up your work in off hours. And so that can be really challenging. So set business hours that work for you, even if they're only a few a day, especially to get started, and then expand on them and make sense, and hold that boundary for yourself. You want to definitely advise your family when you're going to be working, in terms of putting up notice on your door. That was something that really helped me, was whenever I knew I had a phone call or a meeting or something like that, I would post my calls schedule on my door. Not to say keep out from 9 to 5, but definitely keep it down at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock. If you're going to be on a call, or if you're going to be doing something that requires a lot of concentration or involves someone else, you want to make sure that they are also respecting your time working. You want to set your schedule and be sure to put breaks into your schedule so you don't need to get interrupted. If people don't know when you're going to be stopping, by people, I mean your family, but if the people in your household don't know when you're going to be stopping, then they will interrupt you when there's something that they deem to be important or urgent to ask you, right? And again, this happens all the time. So I think it's a really good plan just to say these, and if you have younger kids, of course, you can set clocks, and you don't have to close your door. I understandably, we all have children of all different ages, and so it is really important to set what is right for you, and find an activity for your kids if they're going to be working alongside you, and that type of thing. But essentially we're talking about older people, at least I am, because that's my most recent experience. I started working from home when my son was a year old. Actually, I was 7 months pregnant with him when I started my business, and then I was off for just a little while before I went back to work. So I've always I've gone through all the ages with my child working, and me working from home. And that's my next point. You really want to manage your child care well. I think that, deciding that you're going to run a full-time business, a lot of us want to replace our corporate salary and stay home, right? And there are certain things that you can take off of that. Like I was saying, maybe an extra vehicle, maybe an extra, extra gas bills, and all those kinds of things, because we're not running a second car into work. Maybe you don't have a parking cost anymore. Maybe you don't have lunches out anymore. So you can kind of cut down on the amount of money that you need to make. But if you're still trying to replace the corporate salary, you're not going to be able to work all day and have especially small children around all day, because you are going to need some childcare to help out. Now, I sent my son to daycare for half a day because his cousins were there, and it was a private daycare locally. It was great. And then I brought him home in the afternoon, and he slept in the afternoon. So it was very helpful for me to be able to get him some social time, get me some really uninterrupted time in the morning to get a lot of work done, and then be able to still work in the afternoon, during nap time, as he was napping as well. So I think you have to manage that childcare well. If that means bringing somebody in just for a couple of hours a day, every few days or something like that, whatever makes sense for you, you want to make sure that childcare is a part of it, even if it's not full-time daycare. You want a meal plan. I think this is one thing that I know helps me. I don't do it all the time, but I think that a lot of us spend a lot too much time preparing meals during the day. And whenever you have something that is ready to go, then it's a lot easier for you to fit it into your day, for one thing. Don't eat at your desk. That's another thing. But if your family is home with you, or if they're around, you want to make sure that you are still being able to manage that part of it. And of course, there's lots of ways that we can, use our Instapots and our crock pots and all that kind of thing. But also, because we're talking about family and balancing that, we want to involve the family in preparation and being able to, create healthy meals for ourselves as well. And then the last thing is just about scheduling in terms of your family. Make sure that you put buffers in between your tasks so that you don't work hours at a time. One of the things that VAs tell me often is they get lost in tasks, and I totally have done that. I still do it. Actually, there's not a lot of people home during the day in my household now, and so I can be guilty of working for hours at a time, and it's really just not a healthy thing to do. So you want to make sure that you're giving yourself those start times, those stop times, and put a buffer in between tasks so you can take a quick break and you can go and have a coffee, or you can have a quick chat, or you can check on people and that kind of thing. I think it makes your day, it breaks your day up a little bit better, but it also helps you to, sort of recharge in between tasks as well. So those are my suggestions for you around family. And maybe if you're not doing any of those right yet, maybe there are a couple of things that you can take away from that. The second thing is you. And I don't mean at all to put yourself second, but I think that a lot of EAs do. And so when I was putting together this list of 5 things, I totally could have started with you, because I do think that prioritizing you is very, very important. But I think that most of us, especially as we're getting started, like I say, if one of your whys or one of your reasons for starting your VA business and wanting to have your own business and work from home is to be able to be there more for your family, then family absolutely has to come first. And I was going to say come worst. That's not what I meant. It absolutely needs to come first in terms of the changes that you need to make, because we do want to make it work, right? I think that that's the most important thing is that, we can do all the things that we need to do, but if we're relying, as I said earlier, a little too heavily on being there for the family, our business is going to suffer. So this is how you're going to be able to work and focus on those things and keep them really important, but also be able to prioritize the other parts as well. So you need to prioritize your needs in terms of what your ideal day looks like. If you think about it, what would your day look like? And a lot of business coaches will ask you this when you start working with them, because they want you to start getting that sense of, this is what I thought it was going to be like whenever I started my business, or when I was thinking about starting my business. So I want you to work towards that. I want you to write down what you think your ideal day looks like, or what you thought your ideal day would look like, not what your day looks like right now, because technically we're all kind of working against it all the time. But what does your ideal day look like? What did you think, or what do you think your business could look like, and how does that work? You get up in the morning, what do you do? What are how do you get the kids out of the house for school, or how do you take care of your health? What are the things that are incorporated? What kind of client work are you doing? How many clients are you working with? How much money are you making, right? And are you working with 12 clients all the time and doing a lot of little tasks? Or are you working with larger clients? How does that look for you? And then start to really work towards that. Work towards it and help yourself achieve it as many days as you can. I think that we get into the grind very often, and we allow ourselves to, because we just put our heads down and work, or put our heads down and lament about the way that it's not going the way we want it. So you want to be sure that you are trying to achieve that. So really get clear on what your ideal day should look like. And maybe it won't ever end up looking exactly like that, but you want to be working towards that, because that is your dream. And your business is supposed to be the thing that helps you fulfill that dream. So close the door whenever your work is done for the day. This is really essential. And I think it's one of the reasons that that I used to tell people, and I still tell people, but I use it a little bit more often myself, is that I didn't use instant messaging or texting as a means to communicate with my clients, because you need to close your door at the end of the day and put your phone away, right? And I never put my phone away, so I'm not being a hypocrite about that, but I don't handle work things on it in the evening or on weekends and that kind of thing. I might read an email or I might read a text, and I might be able to answer it, but I try to shut off business. I think that you have to preserve the time for yourself and for whoever's around you, whether that's your family or friends or just yourself, and be able to focus on that and not be working 24/7 simply because you own a business. And of course there are urgent things, but I think most of the time nothing is urgent whenever it's after business, or after business hours. So you want to close that door. don't work early mornings and late nights so that you can waste your time during the day. This is a really big one, and I actually was speaking at a conference in Las Vegas, and I mentioned it very briefly there at the top of this episode. I started talking about this particular concept of not working early mornings and late nights so that you can sort of fart around during the day, and that's the technical term for it, just so you know. And so I said, don't go and get groceries in the middle of the day. I said, go and get groceries after work or on the weekends or early in the morning if that's what you want to do. A lot of grocery stores are open early now. And so I got challenged by one of the women in the audience, and she said, well, I thought the idea was that we could do whatever we wanted. We could book our own, plan our own schedule, and nobody was allowed to tell us that we couldn't go and get groceries in the middle of the day. And I laughed because I said, well, of course you can if you want to. But I said to her, why would you want to? Like, for me, business is during the day. And so that's when I want to get my business done. I don't want to be writing newsletters or blog posts or creating social media images after dinner on Thursday because I chose to go and spend an hour at the grocery store. Now, if you just need to run out and get something, that's different. But I thought, it didn't make any sense to me that she wanted to borrow from her business time and be able to, just for the sake of going to grocery shop. I thought it's not that big a deal. And I didn't realize it was such a big deal until I said it, because I just thought naturally, I do business during business time and I'm off at the same time as everybody else. It's essentially a job, but the grocery store is still fine on Thursday evening or whatever it is. And then we get the groceries and then we do the meal planning and it all kind of fits together. But until I got challenged on it, I didn't realize that it was a big thing for people. And so I call it wasting time during the day, because I do think that using your business day is for things like that is, to me, it's a waste. It doesn't mean that it is for you, but for me, if you're losing time and therefore you're working nights and weekends to make up time, then maybe you're doing too much during the day. Having said that, of course, if there's a field trip that your child wants to go on, that's different. You would want to book that off, and that's a priority for you. I'm just saying, usual household things like groceries and laundry and that kind of thing, vacuuming the pool, all those types of things, they don't need to be done during the day if you want your business to help you support the lifestyle of being there for your family. Is that making sense? I hope that's making sense. Okay, next, prioritize your work. That is the thing. Oh, I actually just said this. Prioritize your work. It is the thing that's allowing you to be home with your family. And I think that that's a really, really important thing that I want to sort of bring home in this particular session, is that we are in business so that we can have that lifestyle. So if all you're doing is spending your time doing things socially with your family, you're going to be struggling because you're going to be working all the time. And of course, your family is going to see that, right? They're going to see that you're working more than you should be. Whereas if you are going to be working business hours and sticking to those business hours, you're not going to be as visibly working. I know that my family has said that as well. Wow, you're always working, you're always working. Well, I would be on my laptop on the computer before I got my smartphone a long time ago. I told you I've been doing this a long time. I would be on my laptop and they perceived that I was working, even though I wasn't. I was probably on Facebook or Googling something or whatever it is. But that's their perception. So you want to make sure that you're prioritizing your work so that you can prioritize your family as well. Don't take on more work than you have time for. I think that when we are starting to build our business and grow our business, we do get busier. Of course, we bring on extra clients before we can sort of thin out the herd and be able to move away from other clients. But when you take on more work than you have time for, that you can physically do yourself, that's when you start to really struggle. Your mindset struggles. You stop doing proper marketing. There's a lot of different things that can slip whenever we get too busy. You want to really live and die by your to-do list. I think that if this is something you're not good at, you need to get good at it. And there's lots of different trainings out there that can help you. And of course, it's very personal, the way that we work and the systems that we use and the processes that we put in place. But you need to make sure that you are getting really good at it in a way that works for you. Make sure that however you plan the things that you need to do, that is what you're living and dying by every single day. Because the more that you can manage your time, right, is going to be, you're going to have a better use of it. You're going to get more done in a little bit less time. You need to plan your schedule and work efficiently. Don't let anybody tell you what to do and when to do it. It's our business. We need to be able to decide that on our own. And so when you are deciding that, make sure that you're doing it properly, right? We do tell everybody that we're in charge of our own schedule, so we have to accept responsibility, and we have to make sure that we're doing that. Exercise is a really big one, and I think that a lot of us don't take enough time to do this. The best time for me that I know is for exercise is an hour before everybody else gets up. And when I get up at 6 and or 5 or whatever, I get up pretty early in the morning, and when I can get that hour in, when I know I wouldn't be doing anything else other than sleeping, it's like a bonus hour in my day. And so it's consistent. The first thing you do, you get up, I brush my teeth, I put my shoes on, and I go out for a walk. And whatever that is for you, even if it's 30 minutes, it doesn't have to be an hour, but make sure that that's the time that you're doing it if you want to commit to something. And I think that it can really, really be good for your mental health for sure. Obviously, it's good for you physically. And then honestly, I come home after my walk and make something to eat. I've had breakfast earlier than I do if I'm just getting up and sort of puttering around the house. And then breakfast is at 9:30. This way, breakfast is at 7 or shortly after 7. And then boom, I can get to work. And I just have so much more time in my day. You want to plan time off and your holidays, all of those kinds of things, whether it's a day off, an afternoon off, or holidays, and you want to hold to it. And even if you can't go away or do anything like that, you want to be able to plan that time that you're out of the office. First of all, so that we're in the habit of being able to take time off, talk to our clients about it, manage our workload appropriately, and that kind of thing. Even if you just want to kick your shoes off every Friday afternoon and sit by the pool, and not worry about work, because I think it's the stepping away from work. Of course, you're welcome to travel as well, and it is great whenever you can go away, but don't not take holidays because you can't afford to go anywhere. I think that's my point right here, is you want to be able to still take time away from your business because you deserve it and because you're able to. Definitely know when to fire a client and when to take on a new client. I think we get into these routines where we just work with people, and sometimes we don't like the people that we work with, and it's a difficult relationship, whether that's a personality conflict or whether it's the work itself or whether it's the schedule, or there's lots of different reasons why we don't want to work with somebody anymore. You want to get used to letting people go like that and finding new people and being able to have the confidence to go out and find someone new when you need somebody new. Very, very good for your mindset, your just brain health altogether. And work with an accountability partner so that you can vent, get support and advice. I think this is one of the best things that I have going for my business, is that I have somebody that I can lean on whenever something goes wrong. I have somebody I can lean on, or not even lean on them, but they can help me celebrate when things go right. If I have good news, I want to be able to share it with somebody. And a lot of times working by ourselves, we don't have that. So for you, my final point is one of the most important ones. Work with an accountability partner. Find somebody that you can trust who is in a similar place in their business and who understands what it is that you do, so that you can really get intimately involved with their business and each other, and be able to give good advice and give good support and be able to help each other whenever things are difficult. All right, number 3, boundaries. Boundaries I've talked about a little bit in terms of the family and the you, so just a few points on this. Learn to prioritize. You really need to understand what is important and when to say no, when to say yes to anything that you're putting into your schedule. Like I've said, get really good at your schedule. You need to say no when necessary, or just say no more often. I think whenever, and that can be, family stuff or work stuff. It's not just all about clients, right? Set those office hours and stick to them. When you start to work with clients, I want you to lengthen all the lead times that you think. If you know that somebody can give you some work in the morning and you can complete it in the afternoon, I want you to start lengthening those times, because when you start to get busier, when you do start to prioritize things properly, you are going to need more time. And it's very, very rare to get same day work done from any VA. I know that I had a VA once who responded to a proposal of mine, or an RFP, and she told me that she needed 72 hours notice for me to I needed to give her 72 hours notice for her to turn around projects. And that was just unreasonable to me because I thought, I can't work like that. I'm not good at it. But there are certain things that we can do that for. I know with a newsletter and, a campaign, a launch campaign or something like that, it's entirely possible to give 72 hours notice. But because I was in the state that I was and I knew that I needed daily support from my VA, that was something that I just couldn't do. And I thought at the time, I thought it was a kind of a ridiculous boundary for her to set. And I judged her for it. But then when I sat back and I realized that's actually her being in charge of her boundaries. And so it was kind of impressive. And I think that I would certainly hope that at least sometimes somebody could ask her to do something the day before and she could get it done. But she wasn't committing to it, and that's fine. 72 business hours too. So if it was a Friday, then, that you were asking for something, it was going to get done the following Wednesday. That seemed a little bit of a stretch to me. But again, admirable that she had the boundary set. And, deadlines are so important for everything that we do. And I think that that's where everything needs to start. When a client gives you a particular task, find out what the deadline is for that. Find out when they need it, because certainly not everything is urgent. And we want to make sure that we are able to turn things around on a good schedule for ourselves as we manage our own calendars and our client work. Limit meetings. I think it's really important to make sure that you are using an agenda for meetings. And really, I'm a big believer in never answer your phone, and it's not a personal thing. I do all scheduled calls so that I know when I'm going to be talking to somebody. I don't have to interrupt work that I'm doing to talk to someone. And if it's somebody who's calling me, then we know there's no agenda, so we take a little bit longer to do things and whatever. So everything, it's totally fine to do meetings. I love meetings, as a matter of fact, but they're very, very strict. We have time limits on them. We have agendas. My clients are more than welcome to leave me voicemails, and I will call them back, or I will email them back with my response. But you want to limit those meetings because they can be things that drain your day. I talk to VAs who say, oh, a client called me today and we spent 2 hours on the phone. And I thought, well, I have no idea what you would need to talk to a client for 2 hours about. And then they'd say, oh, that's billable time, or I didn't even charge for it, is even worse. Oh my gosh, that's when my head freezes and I get all upset. I'm like, what are you doing? But the 2-hour meetings, there's no reason for them. That's work time, and you need to maximize your work time. You need to make your schedule as efficient as possible. Same goes for checking emails. Nobody needs to check email 15 times a day. Nobody. You can check it 3 times a day, in the morning, in the midday, and then at the end of your day. And that suffices. You don't need to be at the ready. And it kind of goes back to talking about the services that you can offer your clients that are better for your schedule than being online all day, right? And being in front of your computer all day. And understandably, some people offer customer service, and there are times when you need to be more available. But in general, you should be able to respond to an email within a couple of hours, and that should be okay for everybody, okay? It's really, really essential for me to set those boundaries and keep them. You want to be tough, and you want to be in charge all the time. It is your business, and you're not anybody's employee. You're not responsible to anybody. You are a contractor who they are paying for support, and there has to be that separation in between who is in charge of what and what gets done. Number 4, we have distractions. This is a huge one. It's always a really important one. I think it's really, really important to get a hold on all of the distractions. You want to be able to delegate, outsource, get help with things that you need help with. If something is, something that you don't know about, or you're not really good at it, and I was actually just talking to a colleague the other day about websites. Virtual assistant websites are a huge thing. They keep us not in business for a long time. I'm still working on my website. Does anybody know WordPress? I'm trying to learn WordPress. We're all trying to save money building our websites, and therefore it's taking us months and months, and we're learning how to use WordPress. I think I talked about this in another session. It's seeming very familiar to me. But if you're learning WordPress because you're going to provide WordPress services to people, then fantastic, you can go ahead and learn it. But if you're just learning it to get your website online, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You need to be able to delegate things like that. You can get a website in a week. If that's, if you're prepared, you just provide the content for it, and you have somebody who knows what they're doing, and it's an expense in your business, and you're able to move forward with it. Things like that are distractions, right? We spend hours and hours and hours on something that we really don't have any business doing. And things are similar in that way in research. Once we get our business started, you can get totally distracted by research or gathering information. And this comes down to time management. I think that whenever we're researching things for getting our business started or client work, if we're researching a blog topic, or if we're looking for, proper event systems or something like that for our clients, whatever our clients need us to do, we can get really distracted by research and pulling the information together to make decisions, business decisions. So we want to be able to give ourselves those start and stop times that I'm always talking about in your calendar, and say, do 1 hour of research, and then check back and say, okay, what did I get done in that hour? Was that efficient? How could I do better? Try to do things better all the time, and be able to not spend 4 hours doing research on something and then billing the client an hour for it, because you sort of, took a little longer than you needed to, or worse, bill the client for 4 hours whenever it wasn't really necessary, and pulling all of those things together. So that's another type of distraction. I talked about the do not disturb or the schedule on your door. Some other people talk about putting your phone in another room for an hour. I think it's a really good practice if you consistently pick up your phone. I constantly pick up my phone. If, when you put it in the other room for an hour, the world doesn't fall apart, right? And so what it helps you do is just stop picking it up every time you sort of see it, or every time there's a notification that pops up on it. Schedule your social media breaks. You want to stay off of it during business. I mean, obviously not when you're working in it or doing client work, but make sure that you and give yourself that time, and put 20 minutes into your calendar if you need to be able to pick up your personal stuff. But make sure you're doing that stop and start time again. Start at 12 o'clock and stop at 12:15 or 12:20, and be able to get back to work, and make sure that you're prioritizing that. We said daycare. We talked about daycare and childcare, and yeah, that's kind of it. I'm kind of looking over my notes. I've mentioned a lot of this stuff already. So that is distractions. We know what they are, right? I've told you about my distractions list before. If you do get distracted by something, write it on a piece of paper beside your laptop or wherever you're working, your workspace. And then whenever you have the time, go and take that time, take that list and pull something off it and say, okay, I was looking for this earlier. I knew I thought about this earlier. Now I can handle it. The distractions list is very, very important as well. And then the last one is services and time management. I think that, I've talked a little bit about this in a variety of ways in this episode already, but you want to set your schedule to maximize your work time. You want to work as efficiently as possible. And that doesn't mean fast, but it means doing the high quality work, right? The best work in the most efficient amount of time, and being able to use your schedule to that advantage. And it comes down to not scheduling more than you can physically do in a day, and making sure that you manage those distractions, and being able to do all of the things that you need to do, and have your day end when it's supposed to end. You want to organize your social media in batches. Maybe you are going to do, come up with your ideas one day, create some content one day, do the images another day, the captions another day, the scheduling another day. I talk a lot about chunking all these tasks down into smaller tasks so that you are always making progress. And I think with time management, that's what we need to be able to do, is work in those smaller time increments. I know for me, that's the one thing that really has helped me in my business a lot, is being able to take a 15-minute block of time and get so much done, particularly for my own business. But also I use that same timing system for my clients as well. You'll see I do a 15-minute cut to the chase call whenever I'm looking to have a conversation with a potential client or a VA who's having a struggle or a trouble or anything like that. And we get a lot done in 15 minutes. So I swear by the 15-minute model for sure. And of course, I teach it a lot. You want to be able to take a short break every hour if you can, even if it's only 5 minutes, just to get up from your desk and sort of refocus and get all of that, get clear your head just a little bit. I think that time management works a lot better whenever we are fresh and our brain is fresh. And I think that that short little break, and not having it be a break where you pick up your phone, but actually just getting up and walk around your desk for a couple of minutes and go and get a cup of tea and bring it back to your desk. And that I think is a really important thing to do as well. Again, don't work with clients who need you to work in front of your computer all day. Not to say that we can't do that. There is a time, but if you are looking to balance more family or more work, if you're looking to balance new clients and that type of thing, then you're probably going to want to start moving away from the clients who need you in front of your computer all the time. I've helped a lot of VAs. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. I've helped VAs do this exactly, where they are trying to get their services and their expertise and everything like that on point for a new service, so that they can actually start providing a different service that they can manage their own schedule. Their schedules can be a little bit more flexible. And because that's exactly what it is they feel like they're chained to their desk all day, and that's not what they signed up for whenever they started their business. And then stop working back to back. Don't forget those buffers in your schedule. Nobody needs to bill 8 hours a day. And if that's you, if you are working back to back and you're really finding that you are, that you're tired and that you're not taking any breaks, you're not taking a break for a meal, please don't eat your meals at your desk. Please, make a nice little place setting. And I eat at our island in the kitchen. It's totally okay. But, or I go outside on the back deck. But, napkin, a nice glass, and, dinner in a nice dish. Make sure that you're doing that. If you're not breaking for meals, and if you're not breaking for, like, I'll bring coffee and tea to my desk. I don't need to sit and have a cup of tea away from my desk. But meals, I think, are really important to have a break for. And if you're not doing that because you feel that you can't do that and you need to bill that 8 hours every day, then it's really, actually, it's a rate problem. You need to raise your rates so that you can bill fewer hours during the day and you're still making the money that you need to make. So again, we can talk about that as well. There are so many things that you can do to help balance your home and your work. It's a tricky thing because everything is so available around us in our home, our family, our people. It might not even be the people that are distracting you, although I had a friend once who was off on maternity leave and I worked from home, and she would phone me faithfully every morning at 9:30 to chat about her baby. And she knew I was home, but I was working from home, but she didn't realize that she was on mat leave and I was not on mat leave. And so it was very interesting. But there are lots of people who just want you to be available for a lot of different things. So there's lots of different things that we need to balance. And I enjoyed those phone calls, but I didn't expect them. And so it was something that I kind of had to figure out how to work into my day and keep on. It was a meeting, right? And I was keeping an agenda for it. But whatever is important to you, you want to prioritize that. I think that's the bottom line. Whatever you think is important. And I think lots of times we do what other people want us to do because of our supportive nature, because we're virtual assistants, and that's what we do. We help people. We help other people with things that they need help with, and we have to remember that we are the most important person in our business. And I hope that you can use the tips I've given you today to make some changes that are maybe weighing you down a little bit, and be able to start doing that today. Daily improvements in your work habits, mindset, productivity, and more. That's how you're going to become a ridiculously good virtual assistant. That is all I have for you today. If you need some help balancing your work and home life, be sure to reach out and we'll have a chat about how I can help you do that better. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Ridiculously Good VA Show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more great resources for your VA business, visit my website at yourvamentor.com. I'll see you back here next time.